For the past 7 weeks, I've been watching the Jolly Green Giant shake her ass in my face, waiting for the man without fear to come and save me. Marvel Studios projects have had a clear agenda of spoon-feeding its viewers with identity politics and forced diversity, and She-Hulk is clear proof of that. This video, however, isn't about television's latest abomination, but about a character who's been overshadowing She-Hulk since her series started. After its unfortunate cancellation in 2018 and years of #SaveDaredevil tweets, The Man Without Fear was revived by Marvel Studios with Charlie Cox back in the lead role. Now, I can go on and riff about how much I love the Netflix Daredevil show, but frankly, I'm depressed and ashamed. Obviously, it was nice seeing my man Charlie back in the saddle as Matt Murdock, but seeing him like this made me realize what's at stake. Netflix's Daredevil was a gritty, character-driven drama filled with tangible characters that felt larger than the stories they were a part of. When I look back on that show for what it is, I have nothing but fond memories thinking about the emotional performances, the gorgeous cinematography, the practical fight scenes. I can go on. On the other hand, when I think about any other MCU show I've seen, they all feel completely soulless compared to Netflix's Daredevil. With Daredevil Born Again being announced just a few months back, there's a lot of red flags surrounding the project, and if I were you, I'd heed on the side of caution. Daredevil Born Again might sound good on paper, but I personally believe this show will be one big dumpster fire, and it hurts to admit. With Marvel's recent track record, they've clearly fallen off the wagon since Endgame, and if you can't see that, you might want to remove your rose-tinted glasses. Doctor Strange with Sam Raimi was an incoherent shit show, and Thor Love and Thunder had a chimp-brained story. So who do you think is writing the new Daredevil show? It's the writers of one of the worst Christmas movies of all time! Plus, the new writers of Daredevil worked on a show called Covert Affairs, a show I've never heard of until now. I tried watching an episode to get a feel for the writing, and my verdict is remain cautious. Ironically, the show features a blind guy as one of its leads, and he's like your guy in the chair, while the oldest sister from Cheaper by the Dozen runs around beauty parlors stealing handbags and catfishing people. I seriously don't know what to make of the show, but it certainly doesn't tickle my pickle. Seems like a show that plays in doctors' offices out in the waiting rooms, but then again, I'm just a crackpot. What do I know? All I'm saying is, don't get too excited, because in the end, this will disappoint you. Daredevil Born Again might have some flashes of greatness, but ultimately, I think it'll land flat on its face. Before we go any further, do the things the algorithm likes and let me know how you feel about the upcoming Daredevil series in the comments below. Daredevil Born Again is a story arc from the comics written by Frank Miller, who also wrote Batman Year One and The Dark Knight Returns. Born Again begins with Matt Murdock's ex-girlfriend Karen Page, now a junkie porn star, fiending for hard drugs she can't afford. In a desperate attempt for a temporary high, Karen sells Daredevil's identity, and eventually the news gets round to Wilson Fisk, who stops at nothing to make Matt's life a living hell. The Netflix Daredevil show borrowed some aspects from this arc, like the introduction of the fake Daredevil, Matt being homeless, and Sister Maggie nursing him back to health. With all that being said, I guess my biggest question for this series so far is, what's the overall tone? My man Charlie said slapstick Daredevil isn't truthful to the source material, but we'll still have moments of levity throughout the series, obviously. The Born Again comic is a very dark and gritty tale of Matt's perseverance through some really rough shit. In a period of 6 months, his bank accounts are frozen by the IRS, the bank forecloses his home, and even a police lieutenant with a clean past testifies against Matt, accusing him of buying witnesses. As a result of this, Matt is also barred from practicing law. If you thought this was bad, his house gets bombed, then Kingpin beats him senseless, drenches him in whiskey, straps him to a taxi cab, and pushes said cab off a pier. But that's it, right? It can't get much worse than that, right? Wrong. After he limps out of the water severely injured, he hobbles through Hell's Kitchen where he's eventually stabbed and later hit by a car. Now, with everything I just said, do you really think in our current climate that Marvel Studios will have the balls to properly depict this kind of story?
No, nigga.
Born Again is also set to have a whopping 18 episodes, which again sounds really good on paper, but still raises a massive red flag. On the contrary, each episode of the Netflix show had 13 episodes per season, and wasn't afraid to give the characters an entire episode to flesh out a relationship. Season 1 of Daredevil has one 57-minute episode, let me repeat that, 57-minute episode dedicated to the friendship of Nelson and Murdock. Each episode should be at least 45 plus minutes long, developing the characters and character relationships. The Netflix show did a great job of humanizing Matt's supporting cast because the show took its time to unravel. The pilot of She-Hulk gave me whiplash because the pacing jerked me around so much. Knowing there's going to be 18 episodes for Daredevil, Born Again shouldn't have breakneck pacing. There's plenty of time to fully flesh out these softly rebooted characters, and I'd hate to see them wasted on bullshit. And what do I mean by bullshit? I mean dedicating an entire subplot to Megan Thee Stallion shaking her ass instead of fleshing out Jen's actual family. But I digress. The weight of conversations in the Netflix show were capable of making my balls shoot up into my throat. This scene of Matt visiting Fisk in prison was just as engaging as a practical fight scene, because the writing and acting were so supreme. The weight and power that Fisk had in the Netflix show was absolutely scary, and when he was introduced into the MCU, he was used as a fucking chew toy. Hawkeye managed to spit out 6 episodes, and the entire time, they danced around the idea that Fisk was in the show, and that was one of their many mistakes. Fisk should have been a main player since the first episode if they wanted to properly flesh him out, but nope. He was just a ploy for some cheap fan service because Hawkeye was forgettable. The last thing I want to address is the use of CGI in the new show. I know for Marvel, it's inevitable, but one of the things that made the Netflix Daredevil show so special was its use of practical effects. The fights in Daredevil were brutal, hand-to-hand fights that felt authentic, and they had almost no CGI. Who can forget the fight with Nobu, the hallway fight, the prison fight, the stairwell fight, the fight with Dex at the New York Bulletin, the final fight with Fisk, plus more I haven't even mentioned. These scenes were incredibly shot, lit, and choreographed so damn elegantly, I don't see how they can improve upon this. Either they emulate what made it great in the first place, or they go scorched earth and resort to CGI set pieces and quips. She-Hulk gave us a taste of what we could expect from Born Again when they tried making their own Daredevil hallway fight. For the most part, I liked seeing him beat up some goons again, but that's all it was. I saw nothing in the fights that reminded me of the Netflix show, and that doesn't scare me, but the Netflix show forced me to develop these sharp edges. For protection, you know? Only time will tell if the minds behind Daredevil Born Again will actually give a shit about the source material. I know my guys Charlie and Vincent do, and I'd really hate to see their potential squandered by a lack of competence. The Netflix Daredevil show is an exceptional piece of television that's beloved by many people, and the suits at Marvel seem too greedy to understand that. I'd like to remain optimistic for the future of Daredevil, but in the end, I know I'll be disappointed. But that could change, we'll see. I wanted to talk about Daredevil in some way eventually, so I hope you enjoyed this mini rant about his future. If anything substantial happens with this IP going forward, maybe I'll talk about it again, maybe I won't.
Well, I'll get going then.